Good day, and I would like to welcome you to our music education online class. Today, we will learn about the famous opera composers of the Romantic period. In this module, we will discuss about the life history and the works of the famous opera composers of the Romantic period. Together, we will explore the basic concept and process in music through appreciation, analysis, and performance for self-development in music education. Are you ready? Our learning competencies are: recognize the different styles and elements portrayed by different opera composers of the Romantic period. Explains the plot, musical and theatrical elements of an opera after watching video samples. But before we begin our lesson, let's have some pre-test. Direction. Circle the letter of your answer. He was considered as the last of the classical composer and one of the first romantic ones. His most famous opera is Carmen, that was criticized in horrible ways that resulted in poor audience attendance. He was an advocate of a new form of opera which he called music drama, where musical and dramatic elements were fused together. He developed a compositional style in which the orchestra has an equal importance in dramatic roles as the singers themselves. He developed leaders so that they had a powerful dramatic impact on the listeners. Great job! Let's have some recap of our past lesson about the different operas of the Romantic period. Identification. Directions. Define what is being asked in each statement. Write your answer on the space provided before each number. It is a romantic opera that came from the short story by John Luther Loom. He belonged to a group of composers who stressed realism and rejected heroic themes from mythology and history. He insisted on a good libretto and wrote operas with political overtones and for middle-class audience. It is an opera which came from libretto in Italian by Francesco Maria Piave, based on La Damau Camelia. He performed his first opera, Oberto, in La Scala, the most important opera house at the time. Great! Let us discuss about the famous opera composers of the Romantic period. Franz Peter Schubert. The proper name for Franz Schubert song is actually Lieder, which is the German word for songs. Schubert developed Lieder so that they had a powerful dramatic impact on the listeners. He tapped the poetry of writers like Johann Goethe. He is considered the last of the classical composers and one of the first romantic ones. His famous vocal music works, or Lieder, were Gretchen am Spinnrad, Erlkönig, Elends Gesang, and Swanengesang. He also wrote piano pieces, string quartets, operetta, and the Symphony No. 8 in B minor. Schubert was born on the 31st of January, 1797. in Himmelpfort Grund, Austria, and died in 1828 in Vienna, Austria, at the age of 31. Another famous opera composer is Richard Wagner. Wilhelm Richard Wagner was born in Leipzig, Germany, on May 22, 1813. He attended Leipzig University, and he was very much inspired by Ludwig van Beethoven. Wagner introduced new ideas in harmony and in form, including extremes of chromaticism. He also explored the limits of the traditional tonal system that gave keys and chords its own identity, which paved the way for the rise of the tonality in the 20th century. Wagner exerted a strong influence on the operatic medium. He was an advocate of the new form of opera, which he called music drama, where musical and dramatic elements were fused together. He developed a compositional style in which the orchestra has of equal importance in dramatic roles as the singers themselves. The expressive is aided by the use of the leitmotifs, or musical sequences, standing for a particular character or plot element. His famous works are Tristan and Isolde, Die Valkyrie, Die Meistersinger, Tannhäuser, and Parsifal. His work would later influence modern film scores, including those of the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings film series. Wagner died of a heart attack on February 13, 1883, at the age of 69. Another famous opera composer is Georges Bizet. He was registered with the legal name Alexandre César Léopold Bizet, but was baptized Georges Bizet and was always known by the latter name. He was born October 25, 1838 in Paris, France. He entered the Paris Conservatory of Music at a very young age. Bizet became famous of his operas. His most famous opera is Carmen. However, when Carmen first opened in Paris, the reviews were terrible. The shows were criticized in horrible ways that resulted in poor audience attendance. During the first round of Carmen performances, Bizet died. He was only 36. 4 months later, Carmen opened in Vienna, Austria, and was a smash hit. It was now one of the most popular operas ever written. Bizet never knew that audiences would come to consider it as his masterpiece. Activity number 1. Listening activity. Directions. Listen attentively to the art song titled Erklung by Franz Schubert and fill in the missing word from the choices given below. You may write your answer in your activity notebook and make sure to take a picture using your smartphone and send it to your teacher through Facebook Messenger.
Es ist der Vater mit seinem Kind. Er hat den Knaben wohl in dem Arm. Er fasst ihn sicher, er hält ihn warm. Mein Sohn, was birgst du so bang dein Gesicht? Siehst, Vater, du den Erlkönig nicht? Den Erlenkönig mit Kron und Schweif. Mein Sohn, es ist ein Nebelstreif. Kind, komm, geh mit mir, gar schöne Spiele spiel ich mit dir. Manch
Activity number 2. Listen to aria Un bel di from Madame Butterfly Act 2 and compare this with solo song I'd Give My Life for You from Miss Saigon. Evaluate their performance by filling in the checklist with best, good, fair. You may write your answer in your activity notebook and make sure to take a picture using your smartphone and send it to your teacher through Facebook Messenger. For our reflection, number 1, which performance do you prefer and why? 2, were the emotions true to the character to both performers? In what aspect and why? Let's wrap up our lesson. Complete the chart. Directions: state 5 facts that describes the famous opera composers during the Romantic period. Use the table below. For our valuing, directions. From the previous lesson that you have learned about famous opera composers and their works, construct a short essay that answers the question on the next slide. 1. What makes the opera of Romantic period different from the musical play of the 20th century? 2. Is it possible for the opera singers to perform the same as the modern musical play singers? Yes or no? And why? Let's have our post test. Multiple choice. Directions. Fill in the necessary information in the following statements. Write your answer before the number. What is the proper name for Schubert's works, which means song in German word? What musical characteristics of Wagner in which the orchestra has equal importance in dramatic roles and the singers? Who was considered as the last classical composer and the first romantic ones? Who introduced new ideas in harmony and in form, including extremes of chromaticism? What is the famous opera of Georges Bizet that were criticized in horrible ways, resulting to a poor audience attendance? Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have learned something to this session. See you again for our next music education online class.